With Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. Today we are going to be discussing the Dallas Cowboys trading Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers and week one in college football. It's a stacked Labor Day weekend, Nelson. We had five consecutive days of college football for week one. Thursday all the way through Labor Day, Monday night. And we are here to provide our takeaways for all of it. And if you want to check out our Week 0 takeaways, please go back and check out our episode. Subscribe to our YouTube page where you can find all of our content. And follow us on social media. We know you guys love your social media. We're on there. We're active. You can get into conversation with us. Drop it in our comments. So follow us on there. We'd love to get involved with you all and have that conversation. With lots of good stuff out there and more to come. So, Nelson, the Dallas Cowboys have traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers for defensive tackle, three-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Kenny Clark, and first-round picks next year in 2026, as well as the following year in 2027. With the Green Bay Packers, Micah Parsons has signed a 4-year, $188 million contract extension. He's heading into the final year of his rookie deal, the fifth and final year. He had that fifth-year option picked up.
Yeah.
$120 million are fully guaranteed at signing, which has already taken place. So it's $136 million in total guarantees. Micah Parsons, three-time All-Pro in each of his first 3 seasons, Pro Bowl each of his first 4 seasons, which is how long he's been in the league. First team All-Pro his first 2 years. Last season missed 4 games, which cost him that All-Pro status in all likelihood. Still a dozen sacks in the 13 games he played in. He, along with Reggie White, are the only 2 players since sacks became an official stat in 1982 to record at least a dozen sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. And like Reggie White, he now leaves an NFC East team to go to the Green Bay Packers. So, let's go ahead and dive into our thoughts on this trade, how it impacts Micah Parsons, the Cowboys, as well as the Packers. And Nelson, you have the first word.
So this epic trade you never see in the NFL. I mean, it's a rarity. The last time, if anyone has been watching ESPN, it's self-explanatory. The last time a player of his caliber was traded from an NFC East rivalry was Reggie White. Reggie White was playing with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Reggie White was a free agent. He was signed with the Packers. He was the first prominent free agent in NFL history. Yeah.
Okay, so correction. So Reggie White, going from Philly to essentially Green Bay, and then leading them to Super Bowl, I think the same year, if I'm not mistaken correctly, if not
a few years later.
Yeah. Okay. So either way, you just don't see these kind of moves. Normally franchises, they end up paying their players. Jerry has always had a knack of paying his players. He did that with Dak. We saw that. And he's done that with various other folks too. He treats, just like Stephen A. on First Take and everyone else usually says about Jerry Jones, he takes care of his sons. And these players are his sons in his eyes, right? And it was very shocking to see that Jerry did ultimately let him walk and go essentially to Green Bay, an Eastern Conference rival, a powerhouse, if you will, right? So some team that they were competing with. And instead of getting the boatload that you probably could have at the very beginning of the year, or per se right before the draft, you only get 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark? And these first-round picks could potentially be late? Because just how good Green Bay Packers can be now, if you're not saying that Green Bay is in potential now to get to the NFC title game, then I don't know where anyone's mind could possibly be. Because they have a good young offense, and they had a legitimate top 10 defense last year. And now with Micah, Lord have mercy on the rest of the NFC teams. I don't even care, even same thing with Philadelphia. They're going to have to watch out now. So, Green Bay, they're set up for promised land. And now with Dallas, we don't know what they're going to do. Jerry came out, and I'll say this last, with his press conference, he was talking about, we don't know what we're going to do with our essential draft capital now. We can move up. We could use that to get other players. Jerry, how active have you been in the offseason the last couple of years? Please tell me, because it's not that active. And quite frankly, I don't believe a word you're saying at this point. So, what do you think, Chris?
Well, it is worth noting, you mentioned that Dak Prescott was paid just prior to the start of last season. CeeDee Lamb was paid prior to the start of last season as well. So they paid those 2 offensive stars. And so just
I was referencing those in the lights of they were waiting to the last minute to get paid.
Yeah, but they did. I just want to mention CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott both got paid prior to the start of last season.
That's correct.
And you're mentioning taking care of his players. So clearly, this situation, there's more to it than we realize. But I do, before I start on my thoughts, I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to give a little bit of a setup here. So I mentioned at the top Kenny Clark as a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's been with the Packers his whole career, all 9 years, but those 3 Pro Bowls have actually come in the past 5 seasons. He's made it every other year, with the exception being last year, as well as 2022, those exceptions.
Okay.
Now, based on that pattern, he would be a Pro Bowler this year, which of course would have to occur with the Dallas Cowboys, or maybe last year was a sign of where he's at in his career, past his prime, going downhill. The Dallas Cowboys have struggled mightily against the run. Is there a world in which having a defensive tackle, Kenny Clark, maybe he has a good, maybe even a really good season, and actually elevates that run defense, even if the defense as a whole isn't as good, and maybe that works out in the Cowboys' favor? Is that something that is a possibility here?
I mean, listen, you can say stop the run. I get Jerry what he was saying. I mean, I'd be hypocritical if I'm not a Commanders fan to say, well, our biggest issue was also stopping the run. We did get some good pass rush last year. Now we had Dante Fowler. Fowler's now with the Dallas Cowboys, but he's no Micah Parsons. But at the end of the day, you cannot replace what Micah was. I mean, it's clear as day with the stats. When he's on the field, that defense is, a lot of folks were saying top 3. Some were saying the best in the NFL when he's on the field and everyone else is there healthy. That includes, their corners, their safeties, everybody. But last year we saw when they were healthy, Kamara ran up and down on them like it was nobody's business. And everybody took that blueprint and just ran all over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Jerry might have seen that from a catch of an eye, and maybe he can plug that hole. But considering how the mobile quarterbacks are now in the NFC East, you have a Jalen Hurts who's mobile. You have a Jaden Daniels who's extremely mobile, one of the better scrambling quarterbacks in the NFL. And you have Russell Wilson, he's no chump. I mean, he can still scramble. So, I mean, if you're trying to compete in this division, I mean, are you really going to go out there and sacrifice and hope that you can get another generational pass rusher out of the draft? Because let's be honest, the draft is all about luck too, Chris. You know this more than I do. And you can draft a first-round draft pick, but they can end up being a bust too. So, I mean, honest to God, in the short term, sure, we might see this work out. But in the long term, no. They're leaving a big gaping hole.
Well, I think the trade is about the long term. I mean, again, Kenny Clark is heading into his 10th season. I don't think they're expecting long-term production out of him. It's about those 2 first-round picks they got. So this is going to be a trade that we'll see if they land those picks, which you mentioned is hard to do. But if they do, and they get some good production out of Kenny Clark, how does this trade look 4 or 5 years? Because realistically, the Cowboys, if they improve, if they trend upwards, then I don't think anybody's going to think about this. But I do have a couple more thoughts before I get to those. I do have
one last interjection, if you don't mind me saying. It's just
I have a question for you anyway, so go ahead.
So my last interjection is just, the biggest wild card in the room, 2 biggest wild cards in the room is, you do got to end up at some point thinking about restructuring Dak Prescott's contract. That salary cap is going to hit big time in the next 2 seasons. And then on top of that, we don't know what the direction of the Cowboys will be, especially now with their new head coach. I mean, it looks like to a bunch of us that he could be a one and done this year. So if you're going to be one and done per se with Jerry, and then you're going to hire a new regime, then what's the focal point of that new regime going to be? So there could be more of a delay than what we really think too, because they could essentially wipe out pretty much whoever they don't want. They didn't draft those players. They didn't pick up those players. I get it, Jerry's the GM, but they may not want him.
We're going to heavy into speculation now, but I do want to ask you in terms of the Packers, because it's worth noting on the Cowboys side of things, they also lost their other perennial Pro Bowler and former All-Pro edge rusher at defensive end in DeMarcus Lawrence, who's now with the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see if he can improve their defense and team overall. Right, so on the Packers side of things, they now put Micah Parsons opposite their Pro Bowl edge rusher and Rashawn Gary. But Rashawn Gary just made his first Pro Bowl last year in his 6th season. He only had 7.5 sacks, which actually led the team. So that's why the Packers desperately needed an edge rusher like Micah Parsons and the production he provides in that regard, even though I do feel that sacks are the most overrated stat in football, just throwing it out there. And guys get paid a lot of money for them. It's kind of crazy. How often do we see an offense overcome a sack? It's pretty frequent. Now that I mentioned that, you're going to notice it. But that's a whole other thing. But I am curious your thoughts on, do you feel like the loss of Kenny Clark in the middle of that defense, if he was to have another really good season or even just a good season this year, might somewhat this only really mitigates that and doesn't necessarily elevate that defense as much as you're talking, and maybe only slightly elevates the defense? Is that a possibility? They also lost the oft-injured Jair Alexander, their cornerback, the former multiple-time All-Pro, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens. The rich get richer in that regard. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. Is there a chance, to repeat my question, that they only have a slight improvement defensively despite the magnitude of this addition, the Green Bay Packers?
I think there's a possible point of we're probably going to see the Packers defense regress a little bit, but I think in the long term, I think they have a legitimate front seven. So we're talking from defensive line all the way.
You think they're going to regress? I think there's no way they don't get better.
Hold on. No. You're not understanding. So okay. I think at first losing Clark, that is going to be something that is going to be seen, right? You're definitely going to see that.
Okay.
But I know the Green Bay Packers are going to adjust. And the reason why they can adjust is because they have a terrific linebacking core also. Most people don't realize that, but they really do. Their linebackers are very fast. They can definitely tackle at the point of attack. Heck, I think, I forget his name. He plays number 7. I think it's Walker. He's a really good linebacker, especially at his position. So if it's one thing that they had a weak linebacking core and then you get rid of Garrett and then you get rid of Clark, fine. Then that's going to open up a big hole. But the fact that you guys got that much of a well-rounded front seven, I don't know that we are going to see a big drop-off. If anything, it might fall off a little, but then they'll come back to normal sooner rather than later.
And with those great edge rushers, it counteracts what they lost in Kenny Clark.
Absolutely.
I get what you're saying. I just am curious to see if they make a massive jump like everyone is thinking was Micah Parsons, this generational talent, or if the jump maybe is only slight because they have to mitigate that loss of Kenny Clark and Jair Alexander as well, even though obviously he misses a lot of games in the case of the latter. But either way, for Micah Parsons, look, he wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy his whole life. He only got to do that for his first 4 seasons. It was a dream come true. So for him, it's a little bit unfortunate for this to happen, and we hope it goes well with the Packers, who have him under contract for the next 5 seasons now, again, to reiterate that.
Yeah.
So we will see how that works out, and obviously they're paying him a lot, so salary cap constraints there. For the Cowboys, we will see if they land on those draft picks. I do not think this is comparable to Herschel Walker. I know that has been thrown out there immediately. It's not the same thing. It's
not even
not
close.
The same thing. Yeah, it's just
not even close.
Right. And for the Packers, I think we touched on that enough, so we have some good thoughts there. So let's move on. Let's talk about Week 1 in college football. So let's start off with Lee Corso. Absolutely. Nelson, look, I know you as well, and for me, I've always been a huge Lee Corso fan, and he has been a big influence in this industry to allow us to have an opportunity to try to do something like this, and so we appreciate that. I've always loved College Game Day, and he's definitely the biggest reason why. So it's a little sad, a little mixed emotions here to see him go, but it's always been a lot of fun to watch him, and we salute Lee Corso. We appreciate all those years you gave us. And Nelson, I know you have some good stuff on this that you wanted to share.
So Lee Corso, if nobody knew, he was a coach, in fact, before he was such a icon in the ESPN Game Day, right? So he was a coach of, I believe, well, his most notable.
A few different programs.
Yeah, Indiana, but I'm going to focus on his most notable. Indiana, when he did take him to win their first bowl game, and that was, I believe, in the 70s. And then, obviously, he joined ESPN in, I believe it was 86 or something like that.
87,
yeah, something like that. And then we saw College Game Day, honestly, take off in 96. And believe it or not, if anybody did watch, they gave him a very good rundown, I believe, on SportsCenter. I think that was Sunday, not Monday. But they were talking about how Lee Corso, just in the short term, how essentially they were at the Ohio State and I believe it was Penn State game, if I recall correctly, and they were going over to get and they were going over there to ask the mascot if they could get the headwear and whatnot, and they had some difficulty with that at first, so
they said no.
And then finally they were able to do so. They were able to make the pick, and that's how it all started. And it's amazing because Lee Corso's energy, bar none, is one of my audience, look back at some of the videos with him. His energy is so, infectious.
Palpable.
Him being able to relate to just about anybody. It didn't matter how old he was amongst all the boys on that stage. And at the end of the day, he's got a few records himself, and I'll just name it on top of the head. 29 years working for Essential ESPN Game Day, all the way up until this final one that he just did. 29 years. Total career picks, meaning all the head and everything all together. 287 over 144. That is insane. That is somebody that knows
money in the current climate.
That's also somebody that knows college football. Because if nobody knew, Lee Corso was 6-0 this past weekend, picking all the games.
How cool was
that? He guessed all of them correctly,
including picking his alma mater, who he started for way back when in Florida State.
Absolutely.
Nobody else was picking, and he was spot on.
Absolutely. And to tie basically all together, he started with Ohio State, and he finished with Ohio State.
First headgear was Brutus.
It's just honest to God. Everyone's got to watch it. Honest to God, he's got some of the funniest clips ever. I won't say it out loud just because I have FCC regulations, but all you have to do is tap in Houston, and you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about. He does drop an F-bomb live on TV.
Yeah, he did indeed.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Lee Corso? Because I'm sure you got a heck of a lot more, because there's a lot.
No, I absolutely do. And for time constraints, we won't get too deep into that right now. And I provided some of my thoughts up front, but I am one who I was up until 2 a.m. watching college football on Friday night. I guess that would be Saturday morning at that point, and the East Coast, of course. And I turned around and was up watching College Game Day, the end of Sports Center, and then College Game Day, before about 10 till 9 or a little bit earlier the next morning. So sleep just didn't matter. I had to watch my football, of course, consume my football, and then be able to also watch Lee Corso's final game day. That was important to me, even though my team wasn't playing. I'm not an Ohio State or Texas fan, but yeah, it was awesome. So let's get into our takeaways from the Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday slate of games in college football. And guys, if you're with us last week in week 0, and if not, go back and check it out. But you know that we have some shout-outs and we've got some call-outs. Let's get to it. Shout out USF. Look, I get their preseason rankings, but Boise State was ranked the 25th team in the nation in the preseason poll. So that's who they beat. It's an upset, and they didn't just beat them. They put the beat down on them. If not for
they bullwhipped them. They bullwhipped them in the woodshed.
Yeah,
that's
if
what
not
that
for
was.
failing on the only time Boise State scored to go up 7-0 was on a 4th and short. They tried a quarterback sneak. USF that is, didn't get it. Gave Boise State a short field. After that, it was a beat down. I mean, very impressive. But I have to call out the USF fans. I get it. You're playing in an NFL stadium at Raymond James Stadium, home of the Buccaneers. But where were the fans? There were far too many empty seats in the stadium. There were more empty seats than seats occupied. Where are the fans? Look, I get it. If you're a student going to USF, the campus is not that close to the stadium. It's tough to get there. That's a problem with the school that they need to address. I get it. It's a group of 5 team. They don't have a big national fan base. Yeah. But where is the alumni base? Show up to the game. Seriously, I know there are plenty of you living in Tampa and the Tampa Bay region and in Florida.
Call them out.
Show up to the game. Support your team. Look the performance they had. Be there for them. Call out Boise State. Look, it's one thing to go on the road and lose to what might be a good team, but they looked horrible. It's a whole other thing to play that poorly. You get your butt kicked by a better team, okay, on the road, okay, but you cannot look that bad. They looked like a poorly coached team. Just throwing it out there. I understand what they accomplished last year, and that seems like blasphemy, but they did not look like a well-coached team in that game. Shout out Nebraska. Plain and simple, Nebraska won a close game. If that happens, we have to shout them out because it doesn't happen often, and they play in an awful lot of close games for many years now. Hey, the Nebraska fans know it.
Yeah, they've been starving for good teams.
Yeah, we'll see. All up, Brennan Sorsby, quarterback, Cincinnati. You cannot throw that pass at the end of the game. You had plenty of time. You were only down 3 points. All you needed was a field goal, touchdown, and take the lead and maybe win the game. You can't force the ball. You have to see the safety over the top. You can't force the ball in double coverage with the safety over the top. It was an easy interception. Terrible decision. Terrible pass. Poor play call. Do better. Call out Rutgers. Up big. At home against a lackluster opponent, or what's supposed to be, and have to hold on to win by a field goal? Not good enough. You should go out and finish your domination. Not good enough. Call it East Carolina. You're driving the ball in towards the 5-yard line. You have a 4th and short, down 7, opportunity to tie the game on the road against a power conference opponent whose number you have had. And you call a pass play? No! You run the ball there, you score a touchdown, you win in overtime. Not good enough. Shout out Tarleton State, going on the road and beating a power conference opponent and on a game-winning field goal in double overtime. But so if not for some early inaccurate throws, that game would not have come down to a game-winning field goal in double overtime. They were the better team. They went on the road and beat a power conference team, and they were the better team. They earned it. Only their second ever win over an FBS opponent. So shout out Tarleton State, the Texans. Good stuff. Call out Kennesaw State. 1 point loss on the road against a power conference opponent. That was your opportunity. You've got to go in there and get it done. You couldn't score a single touchdown. 3 field goals was all you could muster. Your defense held them to 10 points. You were within 1. Find a way to get more points and win that game. Disappointing. Call out the Big 12, particularly on Friday night. Look, I know the Big 12 had some massive wins this weekend, and congratulations to those teams for their dominant performances and what they did.
Yeah.
But on Friday night, you had 2 teams in Baylor and Colorado hosting games at 8 p.m. on the 2 most prominent networks airing games that night. At the same time, they both lost at home to power conference foes, and both of them because they couldn't stop the opposing quarterback running the football. It was almost eerie how that played out that way. Not good enough. Kansas State only winning by a field goal against North Dakota? Come on. Calling you out, Kansas State. Do better.
I've been saying it.
Those Big 12 teams. Nelson has been saying it. Guys, go back and check out. We did our preview of the preseason poll. Go back and look. Nelson said something, and we also talked about their performance in week 0. Go back and check it out, guys. Nelson was all over it. We'll see how the season progresses. Shout out the Ohio State defense. That was outstanding. Great performance, limiting that Steve Sarkisian Texas offense to just a touchdown. Great stuff. But call it Arch Manning. He was not at all comfortable in the pocket. Incredibly inaccurate passes throughout.
Don't get me started, too.
It was a horrible performance. Not good at all. Has to be better. Shout out the LSU defense, holding Clemson to just 10 points on the road. And all 10 points were scored in the first half, shutting them out in the second half. Tremendous performance from the LSU defense. Congratulations, LSU. You looked great. Great win.
I gave you praise in the power ranking show, didn't I? Remember, Chris?
You did indeed. You did indeed. I wasn't so sure, but we'll see. But great win in that one. I was certainly happy about it. Shout out Florida State. Great win. Beating big bad Bama, coming into Tallahassee.
I got comments Florida for that State. Later.
Absolutely. Take it to them. Shout out Tommy Castellanos. Nelson, you know, if you're going to talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. And he sure did.
Yeah.
And hey, Gus Malzahn chose to stay in the state of Florida, become an offensive coordinator for them, and he got out Alabama again, and he let them know about it. They were having fun in Tallahassee on Saturday night, letting Alabama know about that one. Shout out Kala Conradi. We've got a kicker being shout out, Nelson. To quote the great Rich Eisen, kickers are people too. For Iowa State, 63-yard field goal. You hit a 63-yard field goal. You get a shout-out on the First and Final Word podcast. Absolutely. Shout out Navy and Air Force. The other armed forces teams, they saw what happened to Army on Friday night. We just talked about it. They went out on Saturday afternoon and dominated. They took care of business. So shout out to those armed forces teams, Navy and Air Force. Call out Toledo. You're on the road against an SEC opponent. It's a one-possession game. I get it. It's hard to go down and score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion and then go just to tie it and then have to win in overtime on the road. But that's your opportunity. You're on the road against an SEC opponent. That's your chance. One-possession game. You're not going to get another opportunity like that. You missed it. You had your moment to go get it done. Shout out Devin Dampier, quarterback for Utah. Unbelievable performance to close out our college football Saturday and take it to UCLA on the road. Outstanding performance. Go get it done. Nelson, what do you got?
Well, I would say I got another phrase for these kind of things, but I got to line them up so I'm not copyrighting anybody else on no other network. So these are my shout-outs and call-outs as well. So I'll tell you what, guys. I think there is one big play in that Boise State game that I'm going to call out the Boise State freaking offense, or excuse me, that defense, and the coaching staff for being complete morons. Aren't you supposed to have somebody at the literally at the press box or in the sky boxes watching who's going in and out? Did you guys not realize that, South Florida had actually put in a QB, a punter, and their number one receiver at the flanker position?
Where is the film study?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Was anybody communicating anything?
On the sidelines calling
Did you guys just fall asleep and just assume it was going to be a punt?
They did not look prepared.
That was the most egregious. Even the head coach should be watching that. And if the head coach sees something, at least call a damn timeout. What are you doing? What are you doing letting that happen? You guys got literally exposed all game long. And honestly, Chris called it. You guys don't even belong in the top 25. Honestly.
Well,
Genty was the reason why you guys were good last year.
They're not going to be.
But I'm going to move on also to Colorado and Georgia Tech. I got a call out on here. Deion Sanders, for the love of God, listen, a lot of folks love you. Prime time, showman, everything.
I'm one of them.
How in the heck are you going to go home with 2 timeouts?
Thank you.
On the last
you can't
drive?
have them in your pocket.
How are you going to go home?
You let him settle for a Hail
2
Mary attempt?
timeouts.
And you were lucky to be in that position because Georgia Tech was a far better team. They just, their first few drives, gifted
far
the
better
ball to
team?
you.
This
Yes,
is exactly what happened. This is literally what happened. No. This is literally what happened.
But you had that opportunity. Take advantage. They squandered.
Literally, George. Listen, Colorado. You guys could have stole that game at the very end, but you know what? You mismanaged. Your quarterback mismanaged everything from the get-go. But I'll tell you what, Chris is right though. When you allow over 300 rushing yards, what in the devil is going on? I mean, Warren Sapp, which I know is a defensive line coach, trust me, he did not sleep that night. He must have been giving them dreams and nightmares, just like Meek Mill used to say, right?
King.
He must have been giving them dreams
Georgia
and
Tech,
nightmares
don't
all
sleep
night
on
long.
that
Because I'm telling you, Deion is not a happy campy too next game. So Colorado, I'm calling you out. That was one of the worst performances I have ever seen by a defense and also coaching staff as well. You got to do better. Wow. Just like Chris said, got to do way better than that. I want to give credit to what credit is due in the Auburn and Baylor game, so shout out. Holy smokes. Jackson Arnold, 16 carries for 137 yards and 2 TDs.
Yep.
And let me tell you, those runs, if anybody was watching the game, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going on a bootleg or I'm cutting back. This was up the A and B gap. Perfect blocking by the Auburn offensive line and tight ends, pancaking people.
Yes,
and he is just outrunning everybody. Holy smokes. Jackson Arnold, what up, man? What up? Have a game. Have a game.
Oklahoma essentially left him for dead. They said, go ahead.
But you know what? I also got to give credit. I got to give a shout out also to Baylor wide receiver. Listen, Cole Wilson, what a game you had. I don't care if the score is what it was. You still had a game. 8 receptions for 134 yards. When we saw that boy catch the ball in space, he was as shifty as it got. Look, listen, he may not have Tyreek Hill speed, but listen, he is as quick as Tyreek Hill, especially when he's shifty. That boy's got some agility to him. So shout out to Mr. Cole Wilson. I like what you did for Baylor.
Can you lose and get a shout out? Can we give a shout out to someone who lost?
I mean, listen. When your offense is still trying to do what it can, but your defense is just getting run over all game long, which is what happened. You got to give praise to what is praise.
Return for a touchdown.
Yeah, that
doesn't help. Yeah,
it doesn't. Trust me.
No.
And it didn't help for I won't say the team of the name last night, but I'll leave it to that at the very end. I also do want to give a shout out also to Illinois. What a trouncing, but this is exactly what you're supposed to do, Illinois. And I gave you guys some praise in original with the power rankings.
You did.
You guys were just whooping this. I don't want to say mediocre team because they're not mediocre by any means. They're a college,
but they're a
team,
lower level team.
But still. Ottomeyer, 217 and 3 TDs. You had one of your receivers named Arden. He got 9 receptions for 104 yards and 2 TDs. Well done, young man. Hank Beatley also, 5 receptions for 108. Listen, that receiving core for Illinois, they may have a little something going on over there. They may have a little something. So those are my shout-outs for Illinois. Keep it up, Illinois. Keep showing, keep representing. And then also, Kansas Wagner. I know Chris probably wanted to say something, but I'm going to say it now. Listen, there was hype coming into the Big 12 with some of these quarterbacks. And listen, Mr. Daniels may be showing
If
he may
can
be
actually stay healthy this season for the first time.
That's
in
the
his career for a full
question,
season,
right?
he's
If he can
always
stay
had the
healthy,
talent. He's always
that
been
man
special.
might be pressing, that magic ball to say, hey, I might be the first
Yeah.
quarterback in a while. Maybe Heisman? Maybe?
No, he
Maybe?
has the talent.
Yeah, he has to be
always
healthy,
has.
though.
He's just
That's
never been
true.
able to stay healthy.
But still,
yeah.
shout out. 18 for 25, 280 yards, and 4 TDs. Let him rip, Daniels. Let him
No
rip.
kidding. What a
Let him
performance. Go ahead. How'd he run? He usually runs well. He ran well?
He had a couple
threat,
scampers.
man.
I think he ran for about
Yeah.
20, 30 yards. He had a couple
He's
scampers.
tough to defend.
And then I'm gonna call out Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning. What in the devil, Arch Manning, are you doing on the first offensive play of the game?
What was that?
Roll out. The wide
It's a
receiver's
layup.
wide open,
It's a
and you
layup.
throw at his legs.
Yeah.
You throw at his legs.
Way shorter than that.
That is one of the
You get it to his
easiest
legs.
throws you
Oh,
could
he had a
do
lot
for
of
your
easy ones he
strong
missed.
arm on that right
Oh, it was
side.
bad.
Don't you have
It
a
was
cannon?
bad.
Don't you have power on that arm?
No,
and you
not-
throw it
not-
at the
not
ground?
that game.
Arch, I thought your mechanics were so bad. Literally, people were commenting, and I agree. I literally thought you were going to give your arm whip damage. The way your mechanics were so off the entire game,
He
it
never
was
looked
like you were just
comfortable.
throwing a whip. It wasn't even
No
in
pocket
a
awareness.
passing
Just
motion.
wouldn't move.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to call out Eli and Peyton Manning. This
And
is your
Peyton had
nephew.
great
How
pocket
in the
awareness.
heck is your nephew playing like this at quarterback? Are you serious? And then the memes come out apparently.
Peyton and
Oh,
Eli, okay.
he's adopted. Apparently he's not related to us. Come on, Manning family. This is what you provide on a big stage? I don't give a rat's behind
Not good
if
enough.
literally that is the former DC of the Patriots having Ohio State run all these simple coverages and or stunts. Yeah, Archie Manning how many times? At the feet, overthrown.
Arch Manning.
And yet, Arch Manning, and somehow you still make some amazing throws. I mean,
I don't care.
Literally made you scratch your head because there
It's
were a few
about
throws he had.
consistency. We don't
But still,
bail him out
I mean,
for being
come
talented.
on, dude. You only have.
Consistency, you don't get to
Did
be
he only
NFL
have
by
less than 40
consistency.
yards, I believe, going into the second half, right? If I'm correct.
I don't know.
Because that's what
I'm
it
not
felt
positive
like.
on
It was
that.
so
that
bad.
Sounds right. That sounds
It's
right. The
it
first
was.
half, his
Arch,
first
you
half was
better do
miserable.
better. You
And
have
can we
no
also throw in
excuse.
there-
The next
can we
couple of
throw in there,
games.
he averaged
Huh?
over 4 yards a carry as well.
Yeah, it
That's not-
was
that's
just it
terrible.
was horrendous.
Getting stuffed at the 1 yard line of the quarterback sneak on 4th and goal, then throwing an interception the next possession. I mean,
It
we
was
could go on
horrendous.
and on
So
and on.
Arch, you better perform better the next couple of games because listen, these next couple of games for you are not as lethal as per se Ohio State walking in to the horseshoe. All right,
Nothing close. Are
and
you
if you
kidding?
don't perform, listen,
Cupcakes.
I don't want to hear no more
Cupcakes.
about this talk about Arch Manning literally being the Heisman favorite. Get out with that stuff for the moment.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong, Arch. Prove me wrong. I had all the faith that you were going to be that guy too.
I did.
Prove me wrong. Tennessee and Syracuse. Chris, I got to give you a shout out. You called it. Tennessee. They did some work. This is a shout out for Chris because he literally said it. I thought Tennessee was maybe going to take a couple of steps back, but holy smokes, that offense was no joke. 493 total yards. But either way, listen, more shout outs to give. How literally, quarterback 247 passing yards. You guys ran for 246. Perfect balance. You cannot get any better than that, especially on offense. Joey Aguilar, how about that? 3 touchdowns. How about that? Have a day, young man. Have a day. And the running backs.
Great.
And the running backs over 5 a clip. Have a day, running back room. Have a day.
Scoop and score as well.
And then now I'm going to do a call out.
Yes.
Nick Saban, I hope you're watching. Because it's going to be me that's going to call them out too, just like Emmanuel Acho did. You need to walk back into Alabama with, I know, your legacy, and you need to pull some of those scholarships off those defensive players. Who is jogging on the field? Who is jogging on the field? You run through a player.
I mean,
It was
so
complete
fast. They looked so much
blasphemous
Yeah.
on some of these key plays.
Yeah.
Literally, the secondary and or literally the linebacking core. You are jogging. Honestly, that is not Alabama Crimson Tide football.
No.
If
Why
that
did
was
he
Nick
get first
Saban,
team?
literally head coach, literally the next day he would have pulled yours and yours
Yeah.
and everybody else's scholarship off.
Yeah, and I wasn't impressed
Because
with
he
Jalen
demands
DeBoer.
way better than that.
In
And that
terms
and
of
literally,
his
and I'll give you a shout out, Chris. And I'll give you a shout out, Chris. You called it. With that kind of performance, I don't have faith in DeBoer. Because literally going into Florida State University and getting your behinds whooped. Because that's exactly what it was. It was a genuine donkey kicking.
Yeah,
it was kicking.
Oh yeah. They got it taken to him.
You couldn't even stop the run by Florida State, and that's all they did all game.
Yeah, the poor old ACC going up against that tough SEC.
But then I do want to call this out also with Florida State. Florida State, for the love of God, I hate those renovations you did.
Yeah, it looks awful.
Yeah, those were awful. I listen, I get it with all NCAA and NFL wanting to, make their stadiums more, top notch and, bring in different type of clientele or whatever. But there's a reason Florida State was definitely one of the most hostile environments.
Yeah, you want that atmosphere.
And let me tell you, as watching that game, I get it. It was not a sold out crowd by any means, but you can definitely tell that it wasn't a sold out crowd because at the south end zone where they had the double deck upper level, there wasn't any seats. If anything, it was very packed.
It was loud though. The energy.
It was loud, but it was not as loud as back in the day when Florida State was sounding at that stadium all the single time under Jimbo Fisher and everybody else.
It's exhausting watching a game there. Yeah.
Right, but still, I mean, I didn't like the renovations. I mean, there's a reason why they're like that stadium was well known for, like, literally as a fan, you're on top of the field essentially the way it was done. So that's my call out. I mean, I hope, listen, other NCAA stadiums and or NFL stadiums, please don't do that. There's a reason why it's a 12th man for a reason. You want the 12th man to be on top of literally the field as well too. So that way there's that 12th man element, so that way the opposing team could also get distracted. And to be honest with you, I didn't like the renovations. I'll say it again. LSU Clemson.
Unless you're just south of there in Tampa, then your fans for USF just don't bother to show up anyway, so there is no 12th man. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, South Florida, I mean, they haven't had a good prominent program in quite some time. I mean, let's be honest, right? We gotta fast forward.
On the new season. Yeah, go ahead.
We gotta fast forward. LSU Clemson. What a game on prime time. Two Heisman candidate quarterbacks going back to back to get each other in this game. And clearly, I'm going to say it right now, one outperformed the other one, and the other one shouldn't even be in the Heisman candidate run.
Thank you.
At all.
I've been saying that for so long.
One of them should be. I've been saying it from the get-go, and I said this earlier in the power rankings. I believe Nussmeier is going to be a dark horse when it comes to the potential Heisman if he really wants it. He's got the talent. Because I didn't see anything at all coming from Caleb at all. I didn't see anything coming to him at all from Clemson. Yeah. He was terrible in this game. He was flat out terrible. Yeah. So I don't get the hype even with Clemson either. I don't get the hype. Now, I will give credit to where credit is due. Clemson's defense was no joke either. They were running, they were hidden, they were definitely keeping this game tightly contested. But the more the plays happen from LSU, and if LSU can keep that up with their defensive type of tenacity that they had, I'm telling you, this LSU team, which is now ranked 3rd in the country with the new AP poll, they could potentially make a lot of noise coming straight if they can continue onward until the SEC, the later part of the season. They have the talent to do so. Mark my words. And I'm definitely shouting out. I also want to shout out this too as well. I want to shout out Aaron Anderson. 6 catches for 99 yards. Did you see him, Chris? Because I saw him. That guy, when he caught the ball in space too, he was as shifty as anybody. Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, Nussmeier was throwing to him, but damn, that boy can run. He's got hands of glue. Anytime that ball was thrown to him, he was catching. Even contested catches. Seriously. Holy smokes.
Receivers, they're a factory.
I'm telling you, those boys are a factory. Like he said, LSU is a factory of wideouts. Yeah. Excellent. So those are all my takes. I know we're going to go deep into the other games that happened recently. So with that being said, Chris, let's go with the other games.
I'll throw a few more quick ones out there.
Sure.
Just for the heck of it, and then we'll move
on.
I'll make it quick. I have to call out Dennis Lynch. He's the kicker for San Jose State. You go 0 for 2 in a 2-point loss. I get it. The last one was blocked. But, dude, you're on a college football team. At the end of the game, that's how they lost. Block field goal. You're on a college football team, okay? You have all these resources, great workout room, great nutrition, whatever you need. That man is a cheeseburger away from morbid obesity.
That's messed up.
You're that big. No wonder the kick was blocked. You moved too slow to kick the ball in time. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
I
San
gotta
Jose
call
State,
out
you
the
should have won
call
that
out the
game.
Boston Red Sox organization. You signed Walker Buehler to a one-year deal for more than $21 million for 22 starts? That's
Money.
almost $1 million a start. And then why release him now? Just keep him for the remainder of the season, leave him in the rotation, even if it doesn't go great in those starts. If he's playing poorly, pull him after that inning and put your relievers in. Use him more as like an opener, Tampa Bay Rays style.
I heard they didn't even want him in the bullpen. He was that bad.
It doesn't make any sense. Just let him ride it out for the rest of the season, and after the regular season, if you want to evaluate the postseason and put him in the bullpen, you don't have to use him, but he's available if you need him. And then he goes to the Phillies, who lost their ace, Zach Wheeler. And I'm not saying he's a Zach Wheeler replacement, but he's going to be in the Phillies rotation. And I mean, the Phillies are a really good team, so call out the Boston Red Sox and shout out the Phillies, not just for that, but 4 home runs in one game.
That.
Absolutely,
Phils,
Kyle
man.
Schwarber.
Absolutely.
Kyle Schwarber. Shout out Kyle Schwarber. 4 home runs in one game. Nelson, prior to this season, in the entire history of Major League Baseball, there were 18 total games in which a player hit 4 home runs. There's never been a player hit more than 4 home runs in a game. No player's ever hit 5 home runs in a game. We've seen 3 different players hit 4 home runs in a game this year, and we're not done with the season yet.
And the whipped cream on top of what he said, if anybody realized, he was 0 for 16 going into that game, and he ripped off 4 homers. That's insane. That's
awesome.
Insane. That's a way to knock off your rust.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Preseason number 13, South Carolina beat Virginia Tech 24-11 in Atlanta, where Syracuse and Tennessee had played the afternoon before. Nelson, your takeaways.
So with South Carolina and Virginia Tech, this was the Beamer Bowl. If anybody does know, Frank Beamer was the old head coach of Virginia Tech. His son Shane is now head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks. And this game was in Atlanta, yes, and we've known Virginia Tech have some pretty nice games down in the what used to be Georgia Dome and now the new stadium with the Falcons. But this was never that. This Virginia Tech program hasn't shown any progress for, I can't remember since the last time they even had a legitimate quarterback, and I believe he was Logan Thomas, if anything else. And that was their last good quarterback, and what did he turn out to be, right? He wasn't even a quarterback. He turned out to be a tight end in the NFL. Yeah. Listen, Virginia Tech, we know that they scored 11 points, and they were in it to a certain degree. I mean, they were in it at least in the first half. But then South Carolina just took the game over. We saw that big essential, punt return, a kick return for a touchdown. And, the tackling
Beamer
was
ball,
poor.
how cool was that? Beamer ball against Virginia Tech?
The tackling was poor. The defense was not on assignment towards the end of the game. They landed, I believe it was a rushing touchdown on the goal line. It was just not pretty by any means standard for a Virginia Tech Hokies fan. But give it up to Shane Beamer. I mean, that's still a great, fantastic job he did with that squad, with the Gamecocks. And you know what? To still do it in front of Virginia Tech and in front of your father, Frank, that's an awesome story. So
it was cool.
Big ups to Shane Beamer. I wish him the best. And you know what? I mean, absolutely. If anyone knows, he had a pretty decent season with the Gamecocks last year. So who knows what they can do this year too? Who knows what they can do? What's your take, Chris?
Look, I have similar thoughts. South Carolina was clearly the better team, and they were expected to be, and they delivered. But Virginia Tech was so frustrating for me with the passing game. First of all, Kyron Jones, the quarterback, was absolutely horrible. He was horrible. It was a horrible performance.
Horrible.
I mean, inaccurate, terrible decision-making. It was just awful all around. The interception, the first interception he threw. First of all, both interceptions he threw, let's just put it that way, right to the defender. Where was your receiver? Right to the defender. The first one in the end zone, it can't happen.
No.
But to his defense a little bit, his receivers didn't help him at all. They had 3 dropped passes, all on third downs that all would have been first downs and kept drives alive. It killed them.
Yeah.
And look, I am not a fan of the coaching situation for them with Brent Pry. I never have been.
No,
He's
neither am I.
He was in the hottest of hot seats coming into this season, and I think he did another terrible coaching job, and I've always felt that with him. Why wasn't he more aggressive? At the end of the half, 2 timeouts, Nelson. He had 2 timeouts. He took him in the halftime locker room in his pocket. They settled for the field goal. Be more aggressive and try to get the touchdown. Maybe you get the field goal anyway, but with those timeouts, where was the aggression? And then they gained a yard on third down late in the game and had a 4th and 2, and instead of going for it, they settled for the field goal again. Look, they could score touchdowns on both those possessions and still lose the game based on what the final score was. But, I mean, come on. Give yourself a chance. Be more aggressive. So it was just bad, and We did see some drop passes from South Carolina as well, so they actually could have made this even worse. Some missed opportunities there. Guys, you got to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Your job, first and foremost, as a receiver is to catch the football. Everything else you do is a bonus. And then the only other thing I want to add is, look, that was a touchdown catch. I won't elaborate on it for time constraints, but that was a touchdown. We need to fix these rules, guys. That was ridiculous.
What you're talking about. I agree.
That was a touchdown catch, and we need to go back in the offseason in football and look at these rules of what isn't a catch. If it's a catch, let's call it a catch. Let's stop overcomplicating it. But congratulations to South Carolina. Impressive win. Virginia Tech did not look good at all.
I do want to say this because I am a Hokies fan also by heart, because I used to grow up watching, literally, you had Tyrod Taylor, you had the Vick brothers, you had all these boys. Well, you know what? It made me shed a tear, literally, when I saw Shane Beamer and Frank, because I'm like, you know what? This is the type of ball that I was used to watching Hokie football, literally. Hokie football was all defense and literally taking advantage of every opportunity they could. And they also were very creative, too, with their offenses. And this one seems so vanilla. It just, I'm telling you, I was tearing. Every time Shane was on camera, I'm just like, oh my God, please come over here.
You mentioned about the punt return. That was the coolest moment in the game to me. And my favorite part was there was a penalty on they punted before that. There was a penalty, and he could have accepted the penalty and moved it up from the spot of the kick, but he's like, no, I want them to re-kick. Re-kick, and then Beamer ball came to life, and they ended up returning it for a touchdown. It was too perfect. What a great decision on his part. It was too perfect. And then the dagger, the bomb that should have been his second touchdown catch I just mentioned, and it was over. I mean, Virginia Tech had just gone down. They settled for the field goal, and South Carolina just went for the kill shot. And Lenore Sellers was tremendous.
That's what you do, and that's Beamer ball. That's Beamer ball.
Yeah. So preseason number 10 Miami beating preseason number 6 Notre Dame. 27-24 on a game-winning field goal. Nelson, your takeaways.
So how about everybody at the stadium? Mike Lorvin. We saw a sighting of Jimmy Johnson.
Thank you, Miami fans. Not just the stars
Stephen A.
Smith, coming out. Because the Stars have always supported the program for Miami, but again, NFL Stadium in the state of Florida, it's over 20 miles away from Coral Gables, where the campus is. The students have a hard time getting to the games. That stadium, more often than not, is empty. There are so little fans in it. That atmosphere was outstanding. The Orange Bowl, right? Hard Rock Stadium. No, Hard Rock Stadium is where they play. It was packed. It was a great atmosphere. They were loud. That was outstanding. I wish we could see that for every Miami game, because we rarely get to see it. But go ahead, Nelson. I'm sorry.
But yeah, you saw all the spotlight of, celebrities, all the fandom there, and you know what? Miami from the jump was just whooping on Notre Dame from the jump, and everybody thought, man, this is about to be a cakewalk. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I'll be honest. I was following every now and then, and I thought the game would have been over essentially by, the late third, into the fourth, and then we just saw an epic run by Notre Dame. Give credit to where credit is due, at least on that offense. Holy smokes. I give credit to their young QB. I give credit to their offensive line for being able to create all those holes for the running backs, and also the QB to scramble and make that epic touchdown also as well. And nice little play call, too, for that little rollout to that touchdown pass to the running back as well. All that, they had literally Miami on their heels in the fourth quarter. But you know what? Miami was just a little bit too much at the end of the day, and they just were overpowering that defense. And ultimately, we saw the head coach of the Fighting Irish. They were just one step too late on everything. One step too late on everything. They started too late. They weren't playing too hard. They weren't playing with too much finesse until it really counted. And Miami just cooked them late with that last, minute field goal just to go up by 3 at that point. So it was too much. It was too much. It was too much. We'll see Notre Dame bounce back probably beyond this.
I get it. It was a very impressive performance by Miami. I didn't think Notre Dame played bad at all. I thought they played very well. I give all the credit to Miami. A great win. I still think Notre Dame is a great team, great program. I'm a Marcus Freeman fan. I obviously want to see the season plays out. We've talked about that. But for the purposes of this game, Miami is so frustrating to watch. And this is where my problem is. And it's not just under Mario Cristobal. It's always been this way. They just can't get out of their own way. They make so many mistakes. You see so many missed tackles, just bonehead penalties, just mistakes. They botched the snap on a field goal that shouldn't have come down the game-winning field goal. Early in the game, the fumble recovery in the first quarter, they should have had that field goal. And they botched the snap and get nothing. And it's very frustrating to watch Miami, always. But overall, they looked great. And that true freshman wide receiver, Malachi Toney, in the slot, he made a fan out of me. He was fun to watch. That was awesome. And then that catch we saw was unbelievable.
You know what's crazy? That catch. I'm glad you
Ridiculous.
brought that up. I wanted you to bring that up. You know what that literally looked like? That literally looked like Jumpman. Literally, the way that he was able just to be
No, 'cause to me,
literally
I've
like
never
an
seen a
Odell
receiver
Beckham
be-
Jumpman.
he
I mean,
was
it was the
no, because
craziest
that's
catch
going-
I've ever seen.
That's going up and
That
down.
that's
horizontal.
that's
I've
definitely
never
a
seen that.
catch
He was-
of the year. That's definitely catch of the year.
I think it will be, yeah. I've got a funny stat to bring up, and I'll let you go back and look up the highlights to see what I'm talking about, as well as all of you listeners and viewers.
Sure.
On, I believe it was Friday night. It was Friday night. We had 4 outstanding catches. Okay, you can go look at the highlights, check them out. 4 phenomenal catches. All 4 of those teams lost the game. I just thought that was a fun little thing to throw out there. For time constraints, I'll let everybody go look up the specifics on that. But yeah, it was a great performance by Miami on the whole.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah. Very impressive from Miami, no doubt. Great win for them. That was awesome to see. And hey, another good win for the ACC. State of Florida looks really good. Miami and Florida State for the ACC. And then we talked about USF, and Florida was outstanding in their dominant shutout win. They really just rolled through that.
Well, if they're any good, they're
Forget
supposed
it.
to be. They should have shut them out. So and that's what they did.
Yeah, and they're hosting USF this week. There you go. Miami the following weeks. There you go. TCU went into Chapel Hill and Bill Belichick's debut and beat the North Carolina Tar Heels 48-14. Big win for the Horned Frogs. Nelson, your takeaways.
I'm going to keep this short because I'm going to give you the whole floor so you can go ahead with your Mad Dog Russo type moment. But, Bill, I get it. You want to come back from the NFL and you want to coach. And you want to be able to show with the players that you have that you can still coach and you can put out a good defense and all that stuff. But, Bill, this was one of your worst losses I've ever seen. It seemed like your defense and your offense, the whole team in general, was just unprepared from the start. I don't even care about that first drive where you surprised everybody and scored a touchdown because they were inconsistent from then. I mean, there was a couple of screenshots during ESPN's coverage that labeled how long it took for their quarterback, your star quarterback, to essentially complete a pass. I mean, come on. What is this, Bill? I mean, you coming from the NFL, the Patriots, 6-time Super Bowl winner. What really in the devil are you doing now? Are you really going to, ascend with UNC and make them a good program again in the ACC? Or are you just doing this for show? And I seriously say that. Because last night was a terrible, terrible product. I mean, give it all to TCU. If they had the better players and they performed as well as they did, then they deserve every ounce of that beatdown that they gave you guys. Honestly, they made that quarterback over there for TCU look like he was a 5-star candidate, literally, to go to any other school. But enough said with mine. You have your moment, Chris.
We're on to Charlotte. For Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been the first and final word.